Welcome to all Caribbean entrepreneurs. If you've been ready and waiting to take your business digital and get paid online while you sip something strong on the beach, this podcast is for you. We'll hear from the Caribbean's finest entrepreneurs on topics like e-commerce, business development, brand building, social media, their wins and failures. This is the only place in the region helping you navigate the digital age from the Caribbean's perspective. This is Digipreneur FM. And now, let's give it up for the Digiboss himself, Mr. Karan Rose.
Thank you to everybody tuning in to another episode of the Digipreneur FM podcast. As usual, it is your boy, Mr. Rose. DJ, I gotta talk to the people. You know what to do. Fade us all the way out, DJ. Fade us all the way out. We gotta talk to the people. July 5th, Tuesday, July 5th, 2022, episode number 84. Good folks of the Digipreneur FM family, how are you doing today? How are y'all doing? How are y'all feeling? You know, let's do a mental and emotional wellness check. How are you feeling? How are you feeling in your body? How are you feeling in your mind, in your spirit? How are you guys feeling today? We are halfway through 2022. Time has been flying, you know, but things have been picking back up. I must say the second half of the year has me excited, has me feeling good, you know. The weather's been kind of shaky in Trinidad, but we are in the rainy season, so it has been, you know, pretty rainy over the past couple of weeks. But you know what? I don't mind. But I am excited for the rest of the year. You know, a lot of good things happening. It's just good to see things opening back up. I'm glad to see people starting to, you know, really trying to figure out this new way of life post-COVID. You know, learning about new skills, learning about new ways to do things. People are not everybody is trying to go back to the way things were. I think for the most part, the COVID period definitely gave people some new things to think about and coming to terms with learning how to create a different life, because what was going on pre-COVID just wasn't working, you know. So I'm meeting a lot more people of the Digipreneur family in the streets. I'm having a lot more conversations offline, you know. It's just been really great to connect with everybody that tunes in to the podcast. And again, it makes it easy to be consistent when you're meeting people online and offline and they're saying, yo, this was it. This podcast has planted seeds, has shown me things that I cannot unsee. It's making me think differently. One of the best compliments that I got so far was somebody, me and this person connected, and they were like, yo, listen to the podcast has made me complain less and made me blame less, because I'm starting to see that I have control over so many things. And before, when, you know, you're just waiting for somebody to give you that handout because you don't know what your next move is going to be. You don't know where the next dollar is going to come from. And the people around you, you know, are stuck in that system, stuck in that same old. So they can't give you a different perspective. But listen to the podcast, I've started to, you know, blame people less. And I've started to see that I have more control over my own destiny than I thought. And there are, you know, courses I'm taking, there are skills I'm looking to learn. And that's led me down a rabbit hole to see, oh, wow, there really is a whole new world out there. So when I get into conversations like that, I'm like, man, listen, man, the Digipreneur podcast, we're just getting started. We're 1 year in. We're just getting started. We've been, one of the top podcasts in the Caribbean for quite some time. And then most recently, we've hit the number one overall podcast, number one in business, number one in entrepreneurship. And it's really because of you guys and all the support that you guys have been giving us. So big thank you to you. And again, when you guys continue to support the podcast and you guys share with your friends, share with your family, share with somebody who needs this information, the podcast family grows, and that just gives me more motivation to continue to show up consistently. So you guys can expect 2 episodes a week, right? We've been going 2 episodes a week for quite some time, and I like doing 2 episodes a week. 2 episodes a week is fun. It's a lot of content that comes out. And yeah, I'm in that space right now where we have to flood the market, man. We got to flood the market. My whole vibe for 2022 was flood the market. We got to tap into places and nooks and crannies that we've never been in before, which is why, we're doing the radio show on Friday, every Friday, 12 p.m. to 3 p.m. to Digital World with myself and Samantha Best. On Freedom 106.5. And if you're not in Trinidad and Tobago, but you do want to tune in, or you're not near a radio and you want to tune in, just Google Freedom 106.5, and then you could go to the website and you can watch the live stream. Every single Friday we have guests. We talk entrepreneurship, business. Last week we got an amazing show talking about the job market in Trinidad and Tobago and tips to land your next gig, whether locally or internationally, the things that you need to do for your resumes, and also in job interviews to land that next job. So, that was an amazing episode. And then don't forget, every single Thursday, we have the Digipreneur column in the TT Newsday. So that goes in print, and it also goes onto their website. So we share the links. There's a digital version to read the column as well. I think one of the best comments I got about the column was somebody asked me, or I shouldn't say comments, but questions. Somebody asked me straight up, they're like, yo, what's the angle with newspaper? Like, why are you in print if you're all digital? And I'm like, man, there is still such a massive, massive audience that picks up the paper. And most of all, a lot of decision makers pick up the papers. So for me, I know who my audience is and I know who I'm trying to target. So I want to be in front of decision makers. And then there's still something about picking up the papers and seeing your content in print that makes it official. And it's not just me that feels that way. There are people that when they pick up the papers and they see you in it, they're like, oh, wow, you made it. Homie, you made it. When they see it in print, something about in print makes it real. So that's part of it. But then also because they upload the columns to their website and there is a link and you can read it digitally, that helps with SEO, that helps with brand authority, that helps with a lot of things and spreading reach. Remember, people still view the media houses as like the number one place for authority in almost any country. So when you are writing in media, they view that as authority, right? So it still has that feel. Whether they're selling or not, media still has that authoritative view from the people. So all of those reasons is why I went out and decided to get that partnership with TT Newsday to start writing in the papers, all right? And I encourage anybody looking to build their brand authority, go and reach out to the media house in your country. And even if you could become a bi-weekly contributor where you're only contributing 2 articles a month, go and do that, because there are so many benefits to writing in media. There's so many benefits, right? They need content. You need to build authority. And when you build authority and you are viewed as the public as the authoritative figure in your industry, you become a magnet for opportunities. Whether that opportunity is business, whether it's leads, whether it is money, whether it is getting booked to do other things that you had no intention of doing. But when you start getting booked for speaking gigs, workshops, panels, fireside chats, when you start getting featured in other platforms because you are a contributor or a writer, and we get to see your thoughts and your methodologies on things, again, all of that just builds your brand authority and brand equity with your audience. So it goes a long way, all right? Anywho, you guys know I ramble on the first few minutes, but it's always some gems in the opening remarks before we get started. So today's episode is episode number 84, and we're going to be talking about content creators versus influencers. Content creators versus influencers. And we're talking about that today because Caribbean-wide, there is a misunderstanding of content creators versus influencers. And we use these words interchangeably. And I think it's hurting a lot of businesses. It's hurting a lot of businesses because a great marketing strategy is to work with content creators and also work with influencers, right? Those are two great marketing strategies. And I say two because they're two separate things. But because we use these words interchangeably, the expectations, the views, the goals, it's skewed and we're not getting the best results that we can. And it's hurting a lot of businesses, right? And we're seeing it more and more, especially in Trinidad, where, a lot of businesses, are working with, who they feel like are influencers. And then it's misaligned and people who are in the audience are like, yo, like this wasn't good or this was misaligned or, you see a lot more comments and there's a lot more conversations that, here in Trinidad and Tobago, we don't have influencers. The people who we follow for entertainment purposes, and they can't influence me to buy anything or to take an action because not everything comes down to buying. Really, influence is really influencing to make a decision. Whatever that decision is, depends on the goal, right? So I want to talk about, the difference between content creator and an influencer. They are not the same. And let's start with that. The number one difference or the number one thing is that content creators and influencers are not the same. And they should not be used interchangeably. So what is a content creator? A content creator is just that, someone who creates content. And that content could take the form of a wide variety of things. It could be a blog. It could be a podcast. It could be video. It could be photography. It could be, writing in the newspaper. It could be an author writing books. But generally speaking, the three main forms of content is written, audio, and video. All right. And you could throw in photo in there as well. So the content creators make the content, right? They have the skills to make the content. Now, can a content creator be an influencer? Yes and no. Because a content creator could be somebody just behind the scenes. They could be the person just behind the scenes creating all of the content that we enjoy. And you might never know who they are. You might never know who they are. You might see pictures of your favorite artists, and that picture was amazing. And you say the picture, hey, you see your favorite artist, and that picture, that video was amazing. But you might not know who took the photo or who did the video. Yes, we know that they credit the people, but again, for the most part, a lot of the people are not well known. They might have amazing skills, but they might not be well known. All right? So, and then when you do check out a lot of content creators' social media, a lot of them don't want to be the face of their own brand, so they don't show their brand. How many photographers' Instagrams have you gone to and you have no idea what they look like? You see you see their work. They might have a very low following, might have a very low like count, but the work is good. All right? So they create the content, and they can create content for other people, but they don't necessarily have to be the face of their own brand if they don't want to. They don't have to be well known, but they do create the content for others. All right, so they could create the content for your artist. They can create the content for businesses. They could be hired by a business and just be an employee and be in the background creating the content. All right. So a content creator is not an influencer. They are just the people creating the content. So what is an influencer? Well, an influencer is somebody who has influence over an audience or over a segment of people. They have the influence to inspire people or motivate people to make a decision. Now, again, that decision doesn't necessarily have to be a sale. It could be motivating people to sign up for something, to go watch something, to raise awareness for something. It all depends on what the goal is. But the point is that an influencer has the power over a group or a segment of people to take action, to make a decision. Now, you could have, and the reason why we started to get away from, calling people with large followings influencers is because you could have a large following, but you aren't able to influence people to make a decision. Right? You could have a large following, but are not able to influence people to take action or make a decision. Now, the best example of that is, I don't know if you remember the situation with popular Instagram star Ari, where Ari had over 2 million followers and decided that she was going to launch a clothing brand. And when she launched her clothing brand, the company that she was working with, she had to sell a minimum of 36 items from the initial order in order for the company to continue to produce her merchandise. So she had to sell 36 items in order for the company to create her stuff, create her merch. And she had over 2 million followers and did not sell the 36 items in order for the company to produce the merch. So that's the greatest example to date that a large following doesn't mean you have influence. Right? So when we're thinking about influencers, the key thing is, does this person have influence over their audience or over their segment to make a decision? Now, in the Caribbean, we have a lot of content creators. So when you go over on TikTok, when you go over on Instagram, you see a lot of people making the content. And the content is funny, the content is entertaining, the content is jokes, it's whatever. But we have a lot of people who make the content. They're fashion bloggers, they're tech blog, whatever have you, right? So we have a lot of people who make content. And because they've made good content, they have garnered a following. They've garnered a big following. And their audience is engaged. right? But do they have influence? Are they able to turn that following that they have garnered, that attention they have garnered, are they able to influence a decision? And this is where businesses that are looking to work with content creators in the Caribbean, this is where they mess up all the time. Because the content creators that we have, Caribbean-wide, they create a lot of lifestyle content. They create a lot of entertaining content. Typically, when we look at influencers, one of the number one type of influencers is people who specialize in a particular niche, right? So if we know that person for fashion because they have an amazing sense of fashion, then if they're giving us fashion tips, then chances are we're going to go and follow it. If they say, yo, this is hot right now, look at this, chances are we're going to go and find it. We're going to go and purchase. If a tech blogger that we know for tech, if he comes out, reviews something, he or she, I don't know why I just said he, but if he or she comes out, reviews a piece of tech and says, yo, this is amazing, this is what it helps with, and we know them for that, then if they say this is what it is, chances are we're going to go out and buy it. If they are a chef, and they're cooking up meals and they're teaching us, and they have a food background, and they go review food and they say, yo, this is it, chances are we value their opinion. We're going to go out and try that food. All right? So we have a lot of people who create amazing content, and they've garnered the following. But because, for the most part, a lot of them create random content, they don't necessarily have influence to help to push people to make a decision. And because they create a lot of random content, they themselves, when they're approached by brands, and this is a two-part problem. So because they get approached by brands, we, the audience, automatically put them, or we view them as influencers, or we group them in that bucket. They started to work with brands because brands just see the audience and they want to tap into it, even though that's the wrong way to look at it. And they get a brand deal. We say, oh my God, this person's an influencer. However, the things that they're marketing to your audience are not things that we know you for. So we're not going to take your opinion on something if we don't know you for that. We just know that you got to pay the bills. So shout outs to you for getting the brand deal or whatever. And the only thing you could offer the brand is raising awareness. But when you partner with too many brands as a content creator, you saturate yourself and your audience doesn't buy. Your audience just doesn't buy because they don't know you for it. And another part of the equation is that businesses themselves don't have the infrastructure in place to track whether or not that person was actually able to influence a decision. They don't have a website. They are not tracking email subscribers. So they don't have the infrastructure to see who brought the lead over, because we have those tools. We have the tools to see where did email subscribers come from. A lot of these brands don't have websites, and if they do have a website, it's not e-commerce ready. So you can't give things out like affiliate links or discount codes to track to see which person actually drove in sales. And if you can't track, if you don't have the tools or the back end or the infrastructure to track to see where your leads are coming from, who is bringing you the leads or bringing you the sales, you could never say that this person was responsible for bringing in this lead or this money. You don't have the tools to measure that. And for the most part, none of the businesses have any tool or any infrastructure to say if working with this content creator brought them anything. Whether that is a lead, whether that is a sub, whether that is a sale, nothing. Because they don't have the tools or the platforms to track it. That's most businesses. So it's hard for us to say people are influencers if the businesses themselves are not even tracking. Right? Because just because you could raise awareness doesn't necessarily mean that you are a influencer. An influencer is somebody who can inspire people to take an action. So we have a lot of content creators. And we have a lot of content creators who have built a name, who have built a large following, but can't influence people to make a decision. And then we also don't know if they can make a decision because the businesses themselves don't have the infrastructure to track, measure, to see if the people they are working with are bringing leads, sales. Even if it's just awareness, how do you even know? And that's the funny thing, right? Because you have a lot of content creators that will say, well, you know, my job is to bring awareness. Yeah, but how does the brand know that the awareness is working? Because the majority of the content creators don't even share their stats. They don't even share their data as to, hey, brand, I did this piece of content. Look at the reach, the impressions, the engagement. Here is a snapshot of the data of that content. And send that over to the brand. So the brands are not even asking for that. So that they have at least some sort of answer to what the ROI was. We just see people with large following assume they have influence, but then have no data, no infrastructure to see, did that influence, did working with this person help inspire an action? And you can't say that, oh, well, we paid this person, and after that we gained 100 followers. How do you know that? How do you know? How do you know it wasn't one of your other efforts? Because you can't talk about what you're not measuring. And if you're not measuring it, then you don't know what you're talking about. We are just assuming that that was the action. Paying this person was the action. But what if it was your radio ad? What if it was your CEO on TV? What if it was a referral that got shared in a popular Facebook group and everybody went and signed up? If you can't measure, and if you're not measuring these things, then how can you say that the action that we took into paying a content creator, that was what influenced people to come and subscribe with us? So that's why we have to have this that's why we have to have this conversation that there's a difference. There's content creators, there's influencers. We have a lot of content creators. We have a lot of amazing content creators. And I think if we view, here's the funny thing. I think there's a lot of annoyance and outrage because people get classified as influencers, but they're not. But if you just view people as content creators, I think the outrage disappears. Because everybody produces content. Everybody should. People should be producing content. We're in the digital world. Every platform, from social media to search engines like Google, Bing, everybody needs content. And somebody has to produce the content because the search engines are not producing the content. The social media platforms are not producing the content. They are just the platforms and the connectors. So somebody has to produce the content, right? But if you just view the people as content creators, that, that person makes entertaining content. They don't influence me, or they can't influence me to make a decision, then the outrage really kind of disappears. But the real blame, so the blame for me, though, the blame that I always have to put, I blame the companies. I personally think, and I'll speak to Trinidad and Tobago, I think the companies in Trinidad and Tobago have some of the worst marketing people ever. And I say that without any apology because it's lazy marketing to see what they're doing. Companies either do this. They have the money, they either outsource all their marketing efforts to agencies. And there's a big disconnect because the agencies are going to give you ads. The agencies don't produce content. They produce ads. And when they do need to go get some content done, they go and underpay a content creator. Hey, we're going to pay you like oh boy. When I see companies like Malta, Coke, Nestle out here offering content creators $200, $500 to do a video. But they're getting paid, but the agencies are getting paid over $100K a month. And they're paying content creators 200 to 500 TT to do a video. No way. But not only are they outsourcing all the marketing efforts, nobody's doing their homework to see which content creator actually has influence in our industry. Who can we work with that has influence over their segment or over their audience that if we align with, they can influence their audience to take a decision that could benefit us, the business owners. Content creators in the Caribbean don't understand that just because you create content, that's fine, but that does not mean a business has to work with you. And your value to a business, and this is where the content creators are wrong. Your value to a business is if you can help them do better business. What is awareness if the business can't track it or has no idea if working with you has worked? Because you yourself are not tracking any of the stuff. You're not working with them or understand that this is a business and that you need to supply them with data so that they can validate their return on investment by spending that money with you. If the business has affiliate links set up, if they have discount codes, if they have e-commerce, they can track whether working with you was worth the investment. And it'll come down to basic mathematics. We gave you $1,000. We made $5,000. It'll come down to basic mathematics when they can track it. That is your value to a business. So even if the campaign is to simply raise awareness, now remember that could be a goal, that could be a campaign, that could be a goal of a campaign. Just raising the awareness. The content creators need to understand that a business is a business. Your value to them is a business value. So you need to show them that working with you was worthwhile. You need to show the data. You need to offer that data to them. And business owners, you should be demanding the data. That should be a stipulation. When you do content for us, we need to have the statistics of that post. Or you give them a discount code, you give them an affiliate link. And there's tons of tools, there's tons of ways, there's a variety of different campaigns. But for every type of campaign as a business, you should understand what should be a KPI and how to measure it. That way you can validate whether this was a good business decision. You should not just be paying content creators to make a video. They get 100 likes, they get 1,000 likes. Okay, what value did that bring to the business? And a content creator, if you don't know how to bring value to a business, then you're not going to last long. You will not last long. You as a content creator, you should be researching what do brands need to validate whether or not working with you was worth your time, was good business. And you should preempt the things that a business should ask. Because even though locally in the Caribbean, businesses don't know better, what happens when you get contacted by an international brand and they start asking you for a bunch of things that you have no idea about? It makes you not look professional. So you should be researching as a content creator if you want to get more brand deals and you want to be a highly booked influencer. You should be studying the business side. What value can I bring to business? What are the different types of campaigns a business would want? What types of things would I need to show a business so that they feel like they got their money's worth? That way I can continue to build helpful relationships. What types of things do I need as a content creator? What types of things do I need to have in place to show that I am a professional content creator and a highly booked influencer? How can I show that I have influence? Those are the questions that you should be asking and putting those things in place to look more professional, to get booked and get paid more. Because the more things that you put in place to look and feel more professional, then when businesses approach you, they already know, this is somebody who takes this craft seriously. The price tag is different. The price tag is different. You should get ready to have things like your media kits, your EPKs, your headshots, you should have all of those things in place. Your rate cards. Start to put all of those things in place. Because even when you have those things in place, your price tag goes higher than just a regular run-of-the-mill who has nothing in place, who is helter-skelter. You can't command top dollar. And businesses should be asking for all of those things. Businesses should be looking at, what types of campaigns can we run with an influencer? What are the infrastructures we need to track conversion? How do we measure? How do we find aligned content creators, or how do we find aligned influencers to help us achieve a particular goal? And when you start asking those types of questions, then you're going to find the right people. And once you get the right people and you work with them and they create that content, your conversion rate is going to go higher. And working with them is not just going to be a wasted budget. And you're not just going to accept, hey, look, we got 100 likes, we got 1,000 likes. And what? You can't pay your staff with likes. What was the conversion? What was the result of that campaign? Did you hit your campaign goals? Did you even have a campaign goal? So like I said, that's why we had to have this conversation today. Content creators versus influencers. A content creator creates the content, doesn't necessarily have influence. A content creator and an influencer, they could be both. So you could have a content creator who makes content who has influence. So a content creator can be an influencer. So they could create their own content and have influence. An influencer doesn't have to create their own content. An influencer could have photographers, videographers, bloggers on their behalf. An influencer could have people who create all the content for them. And they are just the main attraction. So that influencer doesn't have to be a content creator. However, a content creator can definitely become an influencer, create the content, and again have influence over the space. An influencer could be creating their own content, cool, no problem. But that's how that would work. And a content creator can be somebody behind the scenes, or again just doesn't have influence, but they have a skill. They produce the content for people or on people's behalf. And an influencer doesn't have to create their own content. So that's the difference between a content creator and an influencer. Businesses in the Caribbean need to understand how to work with content creators, how to find them, how to evaluate whether or not working with them makes sense. What is the ROI? What are the different types of campaigns they can do with content creators or influencers? And what is reasonable expectations to get back in return? What types of infrastructures or tools do I need to have in place to measure the effectiveness? And influencers, same thing. What type of campaigns can you do with businesses? What types of information do they want? What types of things do I need to put in place to appear and look and feel more professional so that I could raise my rates and do good business and create long-lasting relationships? So I hope this episode was enlightening. I hope it shed some light for the differences between a content creator versus influencer. And I hope both sides are able to take some information from it and do better business. And at least start going down the rabbit hole to start figuring things out. Because the quicker we can figure out as a business owner how to work with influencers and content creators, the better for us. And influencers, the quicker you figure out what your value is. Because your value is not just awareness. And that's the lowest hanging fruit. That's the lowest hanging fruit as a KPI, awareness. Okay, because then what? Right? Because then what? What happens after that? It's the lowest hanging fruit. And all the content creators and influencers are doing in the Caribbean is just offering awareness. But that's the lowest hanging fruit. Businesses are here to make money. Can you help a business make money? And awareness just isn't going to do it. That's the lowest hanging fruit as a KPI. There are other KPIs. And if you want to stay long in this business, you will figure out what the other KPIs are. You will figure out the value that you could bring to an organization. And the sooner you figure out your value, then a business cannot tell you what your value is. And if that flew over your head, then sit with that. When you figure out your value, then the business cannot tell you what your value is. And you will have more control over showcasing what your value is and how you can bring value to an organization. And then you will understand what you need to have in place to show your value to make more money for yourself. Okay? So that's it from me in episode 84. I hope you guys enjoyed it. If this conversation was helpful, definitely drop a review. Go ahead and rate the podcast. Reviews and ratings help grow the Digipreneur FM podcast all over the world. We are downloaded in over 100 countries. That's always fun when I take a look at the stats. We are downloaded and listened to in over 100 countries across the world. You guys can follow me over on social media at Keron Rose, KeronRose. You can follow me on Instagram, TikTok, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. Don't forget to check out the KeronRose.com website to learn more about building your digital presence and monetizing your platforms. And you guys can also check out the digipreneur.fm website to stay up to date on all things related to the podcast. So that is it from me. I hope you guys enjoy the rest of your week. Have yourself a lovely time. Stay safe if you're in the Caribbean and it's rainy season for you. Stay dry, get some good sleep, get some good rest. I'll see you guys in the next episode. Take care.
You've been listening to the Digiboss, Keron Rose. We hope your notepad was filled after this episode. Make sure to like, rate, and review the show. The learning doesn't stop, folks. And to make sure you don't miss any gems from the Digiboss, go over and follow him on all social media platforms at Keron Rose. Folks, don't just sit there with a notepad. We need you to implement at least one thing into your business before the next episode. That's the only way your business levels up. Thanks for listening to Digipreneur FM. Now go be great.